Hi, I wanted to do a follow-up video on a topic I've been speaking about over the last few days. So first of all, I talked about procrastination, I talked about stuckness and, just being stuck and not being able to move through something. And, with both of those things, very, very similar. If you can stay with those feelings, if you can investigate, go inside and work out what is making you procrastinate and where are you stuck, they can be massive clues to something that's unprocessed, or an old trauma or an old memory, or something like that you kind of need to you kind of need to heal or be with or just process. It's all sort of stuck emotions often in our body from things that we haven't processed. Could be from our childhood, could be from much more recent. It could be something that happened in a relationship or at work or in any area of life, or an accident, or, all these things can, if they're too difficult to deal with at the time, or there's too much going on for us to really be with those emotions at the time, they get stuck in our body. As I said before, the body remembers what the mind forgets. So I wanted to build on that, because I think that also mixed up in there somewhere, it can be that there are sometimes things about us that we don't want to admit that we do. It could be a behaviour or a pattern or an emotion that we feel, and so we ignore it and we push it away, or we split it off from us. And we might think that using willpower and determination not to be a certain way is the right thing to do. It's like, great, I'm not angry anymore, I'm not jealous anymore, I'm not a victim anymore, I'm not lonely anymore, whatever those things are that perhaps we don't want to admit about ourselves. They just come back and they keep coming back. And the only way to really ignore them is to kind of, I suppose, make your life smaller and smaller and smaller, so that you don't have to face any of those things. But I don't even think that works, because then you just feel like you're missing out on so much and you're living half a life, and eventually something's going to give, right? Anxiety or depression or just something like that. So it takes a lot of bravery. But when we've identified that we're procrastinating for a reason, or being stuck, or doing something, or avoiding something, or whatever, there's that going inside and then finding what that thing is. It's usually an emotion that we haven't processed. And as I said before, if it's avoided, if we avoid it, if we ignore it, if we split it off, then we are really splitting off a part of ourselves. We're saying no to a part of ourselves. And even if we don't like that about ourselves, we're not going to be able to really change it until we invite it in, allow it in, and accept that it is part of us. In my experience anyway, you do really need to bring it in, to allow it in. And then once you can do that, it happens pretty quickly. I think so. It's the getting there and bringing up the emotion that, or the memory, or the trauma, or whatever happened. That can be the bit that takes a long time, and it can be really uncomfortable. And you can do that in lots of different ways. I've done a lot of psychotherapy, and really focused and targeted psychotherapy. Somatic experience stuff is brilliant for this. Coaching, mentoring with the right people. You can do connection practices with other people if you know how, and all of that stuff can help us it's about being really present, because if we're really present, then we have to be really present with what's happening for us in the here and now. And if you start to look at the clues of things, notice things like, oh, that's triggering me and that's triggering me in different situations, then, that's the roadmap. They're the things that allow you to kind of live a bigger life, be less triggered eventually, or at least you still get triggered, but you'll notice when they come up, and they won't trigger you as much. Or you can be like, oh, that's a trigger, I know what that is, I know that that's connected to that trauma or that upsetting thing that happened. But don't ever split parts of yourself off. It's the loneliest place you could possibly be, actually, because you've got to learn to love all of yourself. And you know, if you try and deny parts of yourself and push stuff away, then it's, you know, it's self-abandonment, basically. It's a bit of a, you know, jargony term, but that's what it, to me, it means. So you've got to learn to accept and welcome and invite all of yourself, and you know, try and bring up some of those emotions. And yeah, sometimes they are hard. It could be and you know, how do you do that? A photo, a song, or something that reminds you of something, that, you know, when you start to get clues and you really want to get into them and you're feeling really stuck and you can't get there, then those things can help. But yeah, if it gets really difficult and tough, you know, as always, reach out for help, because you don't have to do it alone. It is a brave and sometimes a bit of a scary journey, but ultimately worth it. And you know, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into something small. You want to live a big life and know all of you, really, not you know, only be living half a life because you haven't yet discovered all these amazing parts of yourself. And often when you discover a difficult part, there's some amazing stuff living there at the same time. You know, you often find, you know, if you go in for sadness and you find that stuck somewhere, there's some longing or a very beautiful emotion in there, some tenderness or something like that, fragility or whatever. And so yeah, I'll talk about that in another video, because I could go on for ages on this topic. But yeah, the consequences of not being with yourself and accepting and, you know, sort of really welcoming and nurturing all these difficult emotions and things that we don't like about ourselves is, you know, that we kind of end up living smaller lives and getting smaller, and we don't want to do that. So be brave, but be kind to yourself, be really gentle with yourself, and stay curious. I think that's, you know, the big thing. Stay curious, don't hide from the stuff that's going on. All right, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.